Newcastle United get the Premier League underway with a 2-0 win against Nottingham Forest and now prepare for their first away game of the season as we take on Brighton on Saturday. Some bad news as Jonjo Shelvey is now injured and will be out for 12 weeks. Has that now changed the priority for Newcastle this transfer window? Originally linked with strikers and wingers, is midfield now becoming a priority as we are now linked with Conor Gallagher and the man we've spoken about a lot over the last few months? It's understood Newcastle are now prepared to finally go in for Lucas Paquetta. Yes guys, how's it going? Welcome back to Toon Tuesdays, your weekly roundup of Newcastle United news. This is a video I do every Tuesday, so be sure to hit subscribe. Do not miss any future videos. And I know loads of you guys actually watch Toon Tuesdays every week, but still haven't hit that big red subscribe button. So if you can, please do so. It really helps me, it really helps the channel. And as we kickstart this new season, the channel is growing and it is fantastic. And we are now offering Rubenstein memberships. If you want to go down, hit that join button. Tells you a little bit more about what that offers. But the support has been amazing. Thank you. Let's get into the video. Newcastle get the season underway with a win against Nottingham Forest, 2-0, goals from Fabian Schär and Callum Wilson, and it was great to be back. It was great to be back at St James's Park to get the season underway. The summer has obviously been exciting. We still have a few weeks left of the transfer window, which we will discuss later in this video, but to be back at the ground, on top of the hill, it was great, and it was a good win. I think 23 shots on goal, 12 on target, and overall, defensively, I thought we were fantastic. I thought Nick Pope had a really good performance. He didn't actually make too many saves. I think Nottingham Forest didn't have a shot on target, but he controlled the back line so well. I thought Trippier did well. I thought Shaw obviously had a brilliant game. Thunderbolt of a goal. The only thing we lacked was just that cutting edge. As I say, we had 23 shots, we had 12 on target, but we still needed our centre-back to get the scoring underway. So outside of that, I thought we were good. I don't think Nottingham Forest were great, but I thought we were good. And I think that's what we need to do this transfer window. As I say, when things weren't quite working and we needed that little bit of something special, it was Fabian Schär who got called upon. And let's be honest, he can do it, and I think he will probably do it more than once this season, but really, we need a little bit more than that. And Callum Wilson obviously got his goal, took it really well, and Callum Wilson will score this season. There is no doubt about that, but sometimes he can use a little bit of help. And as I say, that's what I think we need to add this window, which we will get onto. But overall, I thought, attacking-wise, I thought Maxi had a lot of the ball, looked strong. Even Joe Linton was picking the ball up and powering towards the goal. Bruno trying to pull the strings as he does, and Willock. I thought Willock had a really good game. The three of them played really well. Obviously, we've got a bit of injury news to get into later on, which I think also affects what we do this season. But in the meantime, great first win, and we now move on to our first away game of the season this Saturday against Brighton. I actually checked this morning and there was still about 10 to 12 tickets left. So if you do fancy a last minute journey down to Brighton, it is not a short journey, let's be honest, but I've no doubt we will sell out that away end, and I'm hoping we can get a little winning streak going, but it will definitely be a tougher opponent than Nottingham Forest. Brighton started their season with a win against Manchester United, and there's no doubt the eyes this weekend will probably be on Gerrard versus Lampard, Villa versus Everton, but for me, Eddie Howe versus Potter, that is a more interesting battle. Two top-class managers, in my opinion, both have been linked with the England job at the moment, and I think what Potter is doing over at Brighton is extremely exciting as well. Two young English managers, and as I say, it will not be an easy one for Newcastle. If you want to let me know your predictions for that game down in the comments below. I know we have a few days to go yet, and I will be doing a full preview later in the week, so I won't go overboard, but I think it'll be a good game. It'll be a tough game for us and for them. we will have to see how we get on this weekend. If things weren't already bad enough for Nottingham Forest losing their first game of the season, I think things have got even worse as they have now brought in Lee Charnley, ex-Newcastle director. He is going to be there on a consultancy basis and will be helping with the Premier League transition. Now, he wouldn't have been my first choice, if I'm honest, but all I can do really is wish Nottingham Forest the best with that, and as I say, they haven't got off to a good start. Jesse Lingard in particular was useless against us at the weekend. I don't think he actually did anything. So he has a lot of work to do there, and now bringing in Lee Charnley. It's an interesting move. I think Nottingham Forest could struggle to stay in the league this season, full stop. I don't know how Lee Charnley will help with that, but we will wait and see. And speaking of ex-Newcastle employees, Graham Souness, no doubt everyone's favourite Newcastle manager, has spoken out. It was TalkSport he was on. He was talking about the fact that he actually wasn't keen on signing Michael Owen and would have actually preferred to sign Nicolas Anelka. Now, you look back with hindsight and say, yeah, I think I would have I would have preferred Anelka as well. But you forget that at the time, Michael Owen was coming from Real Madrid and was no doubt quite a big move. It was just so happened that he wasn't bothered when he got here, which is really all on Michael Owen at the end of the day. As I mentioned earlier, I thought St Max had a really good game at the weekend. I know the final product wasn't quite there, but it was great to see him on the ball, attacking, trying to get into the box. And it's something I'm hoping we're going to see a lot more of this season. Last season, he was constantly marked by 2 or 3 players. At the weekend against Nottingham Forest, they also had to worry about Bruno, Joe Linton going forward, Willett going forward. So it meant that St Max wasn't constantly marked by 3 or 4 players. And he had a lot more time and chances on the ball. So great to see him play well. And he didn't finish there. After the game, he went outside and gave one of the Newcastle fans waiting a watch. It looks like a Rolex. I'm going to be honest, I don't know a lot about watches. But regardless, lovely gesture from St Max to treat a fan. It's not the first time he's done this. And I think it is still related to Helios, the card game he released. We know that he was giving out money to any fans who were bringing down Helios products or Helios flags. So, yeah, big up St Max and good luck with his new card game. And while we're on the topic of players doing stuff off the pitch, Callum Wilson has been running his Footballers Football podcast along with Mikel Antonio. Most recently, they were having a little bet on who they think will score the most goals this upcoming season. Now, the bet is a 3-course meal for the winner. They either have to pay for it or cook it. Callum Wilson scored 1 less goal than Mikel Antonio last season, but Wilson was out for a lot of the season. And at West Ham, they have just brought in the new striker Scamacca. Now, how much game time Antonio will get? Will he play up front? Will he be forced out onto the wing? Who knows? But my money is on Callum Wilson. I've no doubt he will score the most goals between the two of them this season, or at least that's what I'm definitely hoping. In fairness, I don't really mind how many goals Antonio scores as long as Callum Wilson can get himself a few. Now then, on to the bad news. Jonjo Shelvey has a hamstring injury. We already knew this. He got taken off against Benfica. I actually feel quite sorry for Jonjo Shelvey, to be honest. So, not that I imagine he watches these videos, but I really wish him the speediest of recoveries. Had a really good pre-season with the hype building up to this new season, and to get injured just before it starts must really hurt. So I hope Jonjo is feeling better soon. And 30 years old now, is into his final year of his contract. It's understood that Jonjo Shelvey only has to play a few more games and will get another 1-year extension. I think it's 3 more games he has to play. I have full confidence that he will be back in time to play those games and stick around for an extra year, but yeah, speediest of recoveries to Jonjo Shelvey. So, as we understood it, he tweaked his hamstring. It wasn't thought to be anything serious. He had been sent down to London to get it checked. Now it's coming out that he actually went down to London to have surgery and will be out for 12 weeks, which would take us pretty much into the World Cup. As we know, the World Cup's going on in November, December, which could be a good thing in a way, that he returns and then has that extended break where he can start training, almost having like a mini pre-season for himself before we get into the second half of the season. He's not having to come back and then overdo it too soon. But ultimately, I mean, it's not great, is it? It was great to see Joey, Bruno, and Willock have a really good game yesterday. There's no doubt now that if there was any question on whether Elliot Anderson would go out on loan, that's not going to be happening. So behind Bruno, Joey and Willock, we're really looking at Anderson and Longstaff as the two replacements. Longstaff is a squad player for me, and as impressive as Anderson has been, he was only playing in League 2 in April. So I do think that potentially our priorities and what we are looking at in the next 3 weeks of this transfer window could well change. And I think this could potentially explain the Conor Gallagher links. Now, I know that Conor Gallagher is not the same player as John Joe Shelvey. Maybe Bruno can play more in that Shelvey role, and Conor Gallagher can be the one who moves forward. It was a rumour that came out, or a link that came out kind of yesterday, maybe the day before that, and it was a bit out of the blue. Because for a while, Eddie Howe has said he only wants to bring in players that it's on his little list that he knows will improve the sides. Now, this one kind of came out of nowhere, and I'm thinking now, is that because Eddie Howe has known that maybe the John Joe injury was more serious, and now we need to open that up to midfielders, and what can we do to potentially strengthen that area? Because midfield has been a position that we've spoken about for, months, as saying, well, that's probably a position that we are kind of sorted in. And then we get a spanner in the works like this one. So the Maddison one is still ongoing as well. It's understood that we are preparing a third bid for James Maddison. Still, he is not the same player as John Joe Shelvey, but it is adding more in that midfield positioning, and has been a link we've had for a little while now. I would say that the Conor Gallagher one is potentially coming out because of the John Joe. I think the Maddison one was already there because we need to add goals, as we saw against Nottingham Forest. We were doing well to get into the box, create the chances, but when we needed that little bit of something special, as I mentioned, we had to call upon Fabian Schär. Maddison is a player you could call upon to do something that little bit special. And another player that Newcastle are being heavily linked with this morning is someone we all know very well at this point, and so does Bruno. It's his best mate, Lucas Paquetta, the Lyon midfielder. There's huge links coming out today that Newcastle are finally ready to make the move for the Brazilian. Around 30 to 35 million could take him away from Lyon and to Newcastle, which is very exciting. Newcastle have been linked with Paquetta for ages, but I've spoken about Eddie Howe's list and the specific players that he's been interested in. I do just feel like midfield hasn't quite been that priority, and I don't want to say it's forced, but I've already mentioned Conor Gallagher, I'm mentioning Paquetta. I think the John Joe Shelvey injury could well be the reason we may see a deal like Paquetta now get pushed through, it's massive. Imagine having Bruno, Joey and Paquetta in the middle of midfield. It's one that we've spoken about a lot, and I don't want to over-egg it, but links coming out today that Newcastle could well make that move. And I do expect us to hear more names as we go through this window. As I've mentioned already, the priority had been striker-winger. And I know Maddison was kind of in there. He can play on the right. In theory, Paquetta could play out wide as well, but I just feel like despite the rumours and the links to Paquetta, it just hasn't been that position that Eddie Howe wanted. And I know, before you tell me down below, Paquetta and Shelvey aren't the same player, but Bruno can kind of cover that role while Paquetta kind of takes over the more forward play. So I just think generally midfield hadn't really been that priority But now with the Shelvey being out, and don't get me wrong, Anderson, Longstaff are decent backups, but we could just use that little extra in there. Let me know what you think about Paquetta down below. Another link coming out is the striker Diang as well. The Senegalese striker who plays for Marseille. Know slightly less about him, but it's great to see that we're in the market for attackers as well. With Jonjo Shelvey now injured, can Elliot Anderson and Longstaff be enough backup to Bruno, Joey and Willock? Or has centre mid now become a priority position in this transfer window? Just 3 weeks left. Or do you think we'll be okay and striker and right wing are still the priority positions? Let me know down in the comments. If you have enjoyed this week's Toon Tuesdays, be sure to drop a like, and as I say, please subscribe. Do not miss any future videos. It really helps the channel when you hit that big red button as well. And if you are interested, I am doing Rubenstein memberships. There is a little video when you click the join button if you want to learn a little bit more of what that offers. Alright guys, thanks for watching. As always, daily Newcastle content on the channel, and I will be back tomorrow for a live stream at 5 PM. So if you are interested in seeing me live discussing not only the Newcastle-Brighton game, but all of the upcoming fixtures this weekend, be sure to tune in to that video. Alright guys, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you later.